So I've been contemplating a lot about the recent chapter. I've been trying to sort out my thoughts and write them down. I guess it's good that Aka took yet another break. But I just want to talk about this particular chapter not only because it marks the end of the film arc, but also because of the events that took place in it, which are very interesting, albeit polarizing, to say the least. Now I will assume that you've already read the chapter yourselves because I won't break it down page by page. I just want to focus on the most important things that happen. And let's start with Ruby finally and officially meeting Kamiki. Now, if this was a long time ago, prior to the film arc, I would confidently say that Ruby recognized Kamiki right away. In fact, I would even say she might have planned the whole meeting, but with how the manga has been developing in the film arc, I won't be so hasty. I would rather explore all the possibilities. But before we get into them, there's one thing I want to get out of the way first. It's regarding whether Kamiki planned to not alive Ruby in this scene or not. And I highly doubt he wanted to. From this chapter we can safely assume that Kamiki can find Ruby whenever he wants, pretty much. It seems like he's kind of keeping tabs on his children. Therefore, if he wants to not alive Ruby, he doesn't like opportunities, he can create them at any time. Now, was this an opportunity? If you think back on the Yura Katayose scenario, Kamiki planned to not alive her. He could have ended her on the same day they went out drinking, right? He could have just followed her home, maybe invite her over. It was late at night, so it's not like he couldn't do it if he wanted to, but he planned it. He knew she would go hiking alone, he knew where she would go, and so he meticulously planned her end. I mean, Kamiki could still be an impulsive guy, but based on what we know, right, how he planned to kill Ai in the hospital, then later when the twins grew up a bit, also Yura Katayose, it seems like he's more meticulous than impulsive, and he would rather plan his actions instead of going with the flow. That being said, it's very unlikely he was going to push Ruby down the stairs in this scene. Now I know this scene is portrayed that way, but to me it seems like it's more part of the thriller aspect of the manga. It looks like he was just taken aback by Ruby's words, but I highly doubt he would have pushed her down the stairs. Now with that out of the way, did Ruby recognize him or not? Now listen, if she didn't, then that would be outright stupid, okay? Absolutely stupid. Kamiki is a dead ringer for Aqua. His hair is longer and he is older, but the striking similarities are still there. Remember that Akane mistook him for Aqua just by walking past him, and he was wearing glasses on top of that. If Akane had been talking to Kamiki at the award ceremony instead, she would have figured it out without any videotapes. So, for Ruby, who loves Aqua, has spent more time with him than Akane, they literally grew up together, it's impossible for her not to recognize Kamiki. Come on now, suspension of disbelief can only do so much. Ruby might not be the brightest bulb in the string, but she isn't that dumb. Unless she is. I also consider that maybe the appearance of Aqua in Kamiki's characters isn't supposed to be that similar in the story's universe. Like, we see them as similar based on their designs, but to the in-universe characters, they are not. However, this would be extremely inconsistent given that Akane mistook Kamiki for Aqua just by walking past him. If Aka wanted to keep Kamiki's appearance consistent, then why even have that scene with Akane? If you take that scene out of the story, literally nothing changes. The conversation of Akane and Kindaichi wouldn't change at all. Therefore, that scene has to be intentional. If you really take a step back and think about it, this whole scene with Ruby and Kamiki wouldn't have been a problem if Kamiki came in looking like Mickey, the way he showed himself to Yura. Now of course some features would still be there, but at least he wouldn't look so much like Aqua. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, the possibility of Ruby not recognizing Kamiki is very low in my opinion. Which leads us into the next possibility, that she recognized Kamiki but played dumb. I think the giveaway here, whether she recognized him or not, has to do with Ruby's reactions. Throughout the manga, Ruby has been quite obvious with her reactions to important and unimportant events, especially the important ones. Think about when Aqua revealed Ai's secret, when Ruby learned about Goro's death, her interactions with the Crow Girl, the reveal of Aqua's identity, the recent beef with Kana. I mean, there are so many instances that it's not even a debate. Ruby isn't the best at hiding her emotions. Now, a counter-argument to this would be that Ruby was acting. We know she has played the role her whole life as Arena, as she mentions in these panels back when she was struggling to act, so I guess we could say that Ruby can hold things under control to a certain extent. However, here's that little bit of inconsistency. Ruby still had those reactions I mentioned previously, despite her saying that she's been acting her whole life. This act she's been talking about does not prevent her from showing her emotions. Also, it's very hard to imagine that Ruby could play it cool and pretend she doesn't know who Kamiki is in this situation. You gotta remember that Kamiki is the guy she hates the most, the guy who destroyed her life and robbed her of her happiness. Would she play it cool on their first meeting? I don't even think Aqua would be able to play it cool. So to me, it doesn't make any sense to say that Ruby recognized Kamiki but played dumb. She isn't capable of managing her emotions without any preparations, as we have seen times and times again. But how about with the proper preparations? The only other possibility I see in this scenario is that Ruby planned the meeting, or at least knew she would meet Kamiki, in which case Akane might have arranged it. It's implied in this panel that Akane has been following Kamiki. Given that Akane went MIA several times throughout this arc, it's likely she kept tabs on Kamiki and maybe has been trying to learn more about him. Perhaps Akane knew that Kamiki would want to get in touch with his children, or perhaps not. It's very hard to pinpoint exactly what Akane is cooking, if she's cooking anything. But nevertheless, it's safe to assume that Akane has been keeping tabs on Kamiki, possibly part of a grand plan, whatever that may be. There is an issue with this outcome though. If Ruby was in on the meeting, then what was the point of the meeting? What were they trying to accomplish by interacting with Kamiki? As far as I can tell, nothing came out of it. Think about it, Ruby doesn't know that Akane has information on Kamiki, so she wouldn't ask Akane to help find Kamiki or meet him. On the other hand, Akane could have arranged this meeting, for sure, and asked Ruby to be part of it. But why? No matter how I try to look at it, nothing comes out of this if it was a planned meeting. This is worrying, because it means that Ruby has randomly met Kamiki, she did not recognize him, and that's that. Very likely Akane has been following Kamiki this whole time and stepped in when she saw Kamiki getting too close to Ruby. Akane clearly knows who he is, but Ruby doesn't. If this is how this whole scene played out, please no. This can't be happening. Now there is this conversation Ruby has with Kamiki, which is essentially a dilemma for Ruby. Should she forgive Kamiki or not, and how she could move on with whatever choice she made. I thought that maybe this was part of the plan, that Ruby wanted to lay down the choices before Kamiki and see his answer. Remember, the whole point behind the role of Ai was whether the actress who portrays her forgives Kamiki or not. But the way this dilemma is depicted in this chapter, oh my god, it's so ridiculous, I don't even want to think about it. Besides, Ruby answered her dilemma herself. She says that she wants to become a greater idol than her mother so that everyone forgets the past. Boy, do I fail to see how that answered her dilemma, but whatever. Then Kamiki says some cryptic stuff again, and that's a wrap. So as I said before, at the moment it looks like Ruby is oblivious to the situation, and that's that. I hope I'm wrong, really I do. Because, fuck man, this arc has been a shit show. I don't even think we're going to get answers in the next chapter. Like, I bet my life we're going to jump straight into a completely different scene that has nothing to do with the previous chapter. But what can you do? It is what it is. I really want to see what the next arc is going to be. Hopefully things are going to bounce back hard. Anyway, thank you for watching guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.